Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Rumble. Joined alongside Jacob in Wisconsin, here to talk some Packers on this glorious May the 19th as the offseason just keeps trucking along. Jacob, how you doing? Good, sir? Everything all right over your way?
I'm doing all right. I'm experiencing a little wind. We
wind.
Don't need a little wind here. It's like a freaking what do you call it? Fart in a fan factory?
That's correct, sir. That's when someone's confused, though. That's when someone's confused. So
Sure.
You know, that fart doesn't know quite which direction to go. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of the yeah. Hopefully everybody's having an awesome day wherever you are. You're staying safe. I know there's some wacky weather moving across the country once again. We're pretty nice out this way. I know I'd be surprised if Emilio joins us, Jacob, like I was telling Jacob offline. They got some pretty nasty weather down his way today, and he gave us a heads up it was heading our way. And sure enough, man, we finished the workday just in time. So we were able to work around it. I would say he's probably going to be mowing until after dark tonight. So I know the chat's already filling in here. See what Prince says. Prince says, I love coming here every day and seeing that subscriber count continue to tick up even after the draft hoopla has died down. We talked about this yesterday, Jacob, and I know Emilio and Tim and I have had conversations about it as well. What I love about the offseason, and listen, everyone's welcome here. You know, I understand that there's some people that just watch football during the season and then they move on to another sport in the offseason and come back, right? But the one thing I have noticed since doing this is when all the other regular podcasters, the normal people, when the season ends and the draft wraps up, they tend to kind of take some time off and drift away a little bit. And what I've noticed is the people who subscribe to the channel during that time while we're continuing to churn out daily content, same thing with Ryan, I'm sure it applies. You get those diehard Packer fans, those diehard football fans, you know, and that's what we're looking for. Everybody's welcome. Don't get me wrong. But I want those people that want to come in here and just think about football 24/7. That way I don't feel like such a nerd knowing that everyone else is excited as I am. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And I think that's honestly what sets us apart. You know, the interaction, obviously, but then it's, like Coach Lynn said, football is life. We need people like that. You know what I mean? I mean, it really is. That's what drew me to you initially is I was like, God, Clayton's kind of a psycho. Like, it's nothing but football. I don't know how Mandy puts up with it, to be honest. You know?
Yeah, I think this podcast may have saved our marriage because before she's who I talk to about football.
Yeah,
so she's like, finally I get a break. My God. No, but she's a diehard football fan too. But it's true, man. It's just something that's, you know, baseball was my first love. You know, I played baseball pretty much my whole childhood up through high school, and I was just crazy about it. But football is just, I mean, it's taken over, man. I heard it said one time, baseball is America's pastime, but football is America's passion. And that explains exactly how I feel about it, man. I just love it. And there's nothing better than going to a football game and seeing, you know, 50, 60,000 people all the way up to like down here at Neyland Stadium, over 110,000 people coming together for a sporting event. I just think that's absolutely awesome. You got people from all different races, all different backgrounds, and you kind of set all your swords down for a second and just enjoy a football game. You got your team you're rooting for, and it's you against the other team. And I kind of like how that many people can come together, especially when there's good sportsmanship involved as well. But Greg Rice in the chat says, when do family night tickets go on sale? After the date is announced, who all plans to try to go? So yeah, you guys use the Patreon community too there, man. You guys use that general chat and put a little game plan together. I wish I could go to family night, Jacob, because it's one of my long-term goals is to get to Green Bay in the springtime or the summertime and be able to spend some time up in Door County. I'd love to go up there on the lake, that type of thing, up in Sturgeon Bay in that area. But my schedule's so crazy in the summer. It's just, I could do it. I could make it happen, but it would take me 2 weeks back here to get business back under control. It really would. So, anybody who plans on going, communicate with each other, man. You know what I mean? Put a group together. I think
we should definitely reach out to Ryan and see if he can get the family night, maybe. I know he wanted to be able to sell tickets on that website that he created, and he said he's still getting quite a bit of traffic there. It'd be cool if we could set something up to try to maybe get some family night tickets. I went to the first family night they ever did with my late grandmother and my whole family, and it was freaking awesome, dude. It was the first one, so they had a little bugs to work out, here and there, but honestly, I remember just being so happy, and like it was kind of right at the beginning of when they started doing the big renovations and all that, and it was way cooler than I thought it was going to be. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I love that whole. It's just kind of the kicking off of the season. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, we made it. Let's get into some preseason football now. It kind of reminds me of that same feeling you get down here. It's called Boone's Day. But I think it's still called Boone's Day in Knoxville. When I lived down there, it was like to kick off the summer, they would do this huge fireworks show and just kind of get everything kicked off. It was either the summer or late summer, early fall, but it's just this big, extravagant kind of celebration in Knoxville. And I get that same feeling when I see Family Night. When Family Night's here, there's nothing better than trying to find a way to watch it online. First of all, down here in Tennessee, that can be a journey, which last year I think they did televise, if I remember correctly, on their website. And we'll do a watch party for that for sure. That'll be a blast. But yeah, it's an awesome tradition, no doubt about it. Joseph in the chat says, burgers on the grill as I tune into the best pod. Life is good. I appreciate you with the kind words there, Joseph, and thanks for making us part of your evening festivity. It's something I enjoy doing too, man. When I go out to the grill, Jacob, I crack open a daddy soda and put one of my favorite podcasts on, or put it on. I've got a TV mounted on the back of the house like a weirdo. I was telling you about that last night. So go out on the back deck and catch up on some football content for sure.
Yeah.
So
I may or may not have received a fine for grilling on my deck. I'm sorry. I thought this was America.
That reminds me of the first home that me and Mandy had. This was my wild days. This is when I was pouring concrete and acting like an idiot. I was one of those knuckleheads that everything that common sense tells you not to do, I was doing on a daily basis. But we weren't allowed to have fires and grills and stuff like that at our home association, our condominium. But one night I did notice a crowd kind of gathered down the street as I was burning bunch of wood on the back deck with a fire pit, on a wooden deck with plywood and glue flaming up and everything. And I was a few daddy sodas deep. That was in the wild days. So yeah, I remember too, the home association treasurer came to me the next day. We were good friends. It was like, yeah, there were some people complaining, but everybody was scared to walk over there because it was me and a couple buddies up there getting way too loud. So that's the way that works. So anyway, let's get into some Packers content. We wasted enough time. Matthew Golden obviously signed his rookie contract today. And I can understand some people would think this is no news, but I think it's important to kind of cover the details, Jacob, and see how the contract's structured. And then we took it a step further and talk about some of the pass catchers and how cheap that room is. There in Green Bay. So obviously Matthew Golden finalizing his rookie deal. The Green Bay Packers obviously getting the rookie contract done there. Let's take a look at the details. So Matthew Golden contract details, and we'll break down the cap ramifications and all that as well. 4 years, $17.5 million, fully guaranteed. That's not like, I've seen some people reacting to it as if it was like, wow, that's unique. That's not unique at all in today's structure with the rookie contracts, the first round picks, things like that. There may have been a case or two where it wasn't fully guaranteed. I don't know, but I've come to expect if it's a first round pick, it's going to be fully guaranteed. The signing bonus, however, is $9.4 million. So he gets that check today. All right. So my man got $9.4 million. The base salaries, $840K. Then it jumps to $1 million in 26, then $1.1 million in 27, $2 million flat in 28, with the roster bonus day 5 of training camp being $633,879 in 2026. In 27, that roster bonus jumps to $1.3 million, and then in 28, it jumps to $1.1 million. But more importantly, Jacob, let's look at the contract details here. If I can zoom in, I'll try to read it off to you guys and gals. So like we said, a 4-year, $17.5 million deal, including the $9.4 million signing bonus. When you look at how the cap hit is structured, starting in 2025, the cap hit is $3.1 million with the dead cap of $17.5 million. So you're not going to move on, right? You're going to hold on to that guy, I believe. You don't want to eat a dead cap of $14 million there. 2026, the cap hit jumps to $3.9 million. with a dead cap of 14.3. In 27, the cap hit jumps to 4.7 million with a dead cap of 10 million. And then in 2028, the cap hit will be 5.5 million with a 5.5 dead cap attached as well. So listen, you could trade them and possibly that, a good portion of that contract, travel with a player if you wanted to get out from under it. There's ways around that, obviously, where you can get a little bit of that freed up, but it is fully guaranteed. Notice also, Jacob, the placeholder there in 2029, that's for the 5th-year option year, obviously. So here's the reality of it, man. Whether he is a hit and he ends up being our number one receiver, like if that happens, boy, what a deal, right? Your number one receiver is going to be, less than $5 million until his 4th year in the league, and that's when you're looking at possibly redoing the contract, re-signing him, or tacking on that 5th-year option. If he ends up being kind of meh, he's serviceable, that doesn't break the bank. That's why these draft picks are so damn valuable in today's NFL. But what do you think about the structure there? Anything you want to add to it? Or any comments? Anything come to mind for you, man?
No, I mean, that is kind of crazy to think that nowadays first-round picks, like who was it? Greg Rice says, I do not remember ever getting a $9 million signing bonus in any of my jobs. I don't either. Chris, the casual end, goes on to say that's a nice deal for Golden, 9.4 in the bank to start. Mm-hmm. All right. I mean, it really is crazy. That's life-changing money. When you're somebody like me that shops at Walmart and TJ Maxx, oof, man, I could get some nice stuff shopping like a boss at Ross. But I'm excited. I'm happy for him. It's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how the other wide receivers work with him. And, obviously there was a little dust up with Jayden Reed, but I think that he did a great job of kind of squashing that and making it known that he's going to be a leader. He's going to help these guys along. It's one unit, one team, obviously one organization that has one goal, and that's to win the Super Bowl. I think that Matthew Golden's going to be giving us, you look at the cap hits and all that. In 2028, is that like the only time where if he's absolutely booty cheeks that you'd be like, all right, we can take that $5 million dead cap hit if you wanted to do something crazy drastic or like?
Yeah, I mean, essentially you've got the dead cap of 5.5. I mean, you'd be eating it. I think you would probably keep him anyway. And I know there's some people that are probably thinking, well, what if a player becomes a head case? Are you stuck with that? No, that's when you get into the conduct detrimental to the team type thing, right? And you can, free that up if they do something absolutely crazy or, what have you. But I mean, yeah, it's pretty much a wash there. He's going to be on the roster through 2028, barring anything crazy, right? I hope he's on the roster for another 5 years after that.
Right.
That means we hit on him, obviously. So, but I will say this about Goody, man, it's going to take someone being dominant to give him top wide receiver money. That's the other beautiful thing about this is if he don't pan out, then in 2029, you free up that $5 million and you continue to try to find that next guy. And who knows? It could be Savion Williams. Mm-hmm. It could be, Dontavion Wicks could take a step forward and be that dude, right? It's funny you bring up the rest of the group here. Adam Schefter had a really cool tweet here. Now let's take a look at Green Bay's highest paid pass catchers by AAV. As Adam Schefter tweeted out, Packers rookie wide receiver Matthew Golden is now set to enter this season as Green Bay's highest paid pass catcher by average annual value. Okay, and keep in mind that's just you take the totality of the contract, you divide it by the number of years, and that's going to give you your average annual value. In some cases, contracts are structured, and that's why we try to break it down by the guaranteed money and show you where the out is and where you can free up cap space if you decide to move on. Kind of like Aaron Banks, it's more or less a 2-year deal, even though it's listed as a 3 or a 4-year deal, whatever it was they ended up signing. Same thing with Nate Hobbs. It's essentially a 2-year deal with the option of a 3rd and a 4th. That's how that shakes out. But in this case, with Matthew Golden being 4.39 average annual value, second is Christian Watson at 2.3. So $2 million cheaper is Christian Watson. Luke Musgrave, $2.1 million. Jayden Reed, remember the breakdown we did last night, gang, of how for whatever reason there's a portion of the fan base that thinks Jayden Reed's a horrible football player all of a sudden. When you break down the numbers like we did last night and look at how he improved on about 90% of the statistics across the board, even some of the advanced metrics, most of the advanced metrics, and he's only making $1.8 million average annual value. I mean, you're talking about a deal. Mecole Hardman, $1.5 million. Tucker Kraft at $1.3 million. Give you guys a spoiler alert. The next segment is going to be on Tucker Kraft. I think you guys are going to go, holy crap, I didn't realize he was that good last year. by the time we're done with that article. Romeo Dobbs, $1 million flat, and Dontavion Wicks, $1 million flat. So here's what I want to say, Jacob. I'm going to turn it over to you and ask your opinion on these pass catchers in Green Bay. When you look at this, when you look at the money, the $2 million difference between him and Christian Watson, you've really got to take into consideration how high they are on Matthew Golden to use a first-round pick on him. I mean, Jaden Reed's been a hit, right? You could see they see Matthew Golden as a much better prospect than they seen Jaden Reed. I mean, it's not just about the money; it's about where they're drafted. You know what I'm saying? And in some cases, it may have been that they had a first-round grade on Christian Watson. They may have had a first-round grade on Jaden Reed. They're not going to, disclose that information, obviously, with their draft board and how they evaluate. But I'm really, really excited to see what Matthew Golden does because, again, there's only been 3 wide receivers taken in the first round in the Super Bowl era of in Packers history. Forget that. In Packers history, since 1921, there's only been 3, or since the draft came along in whatever it was, the 30s or 40s. There's only been 3 wide receivers drafted in the first round. They were James Lofton, Hall of Famer, Sterling Sharp, Hall of Famer, and Javon Walker, who I think we would all agree didn't pan out. So you're 2 for 3 right now. History says that Matthew Golden probably going to be a damn good football player. So anyway, what do you think about the pass catchers and their average annual value?
Yeah, it's an interesting group, man. And I would be very curious, maybe somebody in the chat, if you could figure out a way to pull it up. I would argue we have to be in the bottom 5, maybe top 3 of lowest paid wide receiver rooms in the league.
We're third from the cheapest last I've seen.
Third? Okay, cool. That's what I was thinking. And what surprised me is that, you look at what Musgrave's making and compare it to Tucker Kraft and to Romeo Dobbs and Dontavion Wicks. The only thing is I am a little nervous because you look at all of those guys minus Matthew Golden, they look up and they go, this mother came in here and all of a sudden he's making 4 times what I'm making this year. Like, he ain't done nothing yet. But hopefully the guys put the ego aside and they realize that they need all these guys to play their butts off to get towards that similar goal, like I said earlier. And it's a little interesting to see that drastic shift from a first-round pick to the second, to the third, to the fourth, and how that stacks up as far as money. And, I hope these guys all understand that if they play the type of ball that they need to, that money's going to come. It's going to get there sooner or later, and you're going to have a nice big old fat check so you can go and buy yourself a lot of what do guys buy nowadays? I'm so old, I don't even know. They get
underwear.
Underwear is good.
Body potties, Jake. That's what they buy.
Sure. Yeah.
I just noticed the boxer briefs keeps getting brought up here in the chat. Respect Orange just says Pokemon that. Cards. There you go. All right, got
Easy, Blake.
Yeah, unbelievable. So when you bring up that point, Jacob, like how is the room going to react? I personally believe that these players are so heavily vetted for the Green Bay Packers that you won't have an issue. And I know you're not saying there's going to be an issue, but I don't think there'll be an issue at all. But also, the reality is these players are rooting for each other to make more money. Like, for example, Jaden Reed he sees that $4.3 million and probably goes, hell yes. When he gets here, if I outwork him and I outperform him, guess what? I'm going to the last year of my contract. I'm going to go, hey, bub, I beat you Golden Goose out this year and outperformed him. Time to get me a contract. It's contract year. So they look at it as almost like an escalator for them, and not that Jaden would. I feel like Jaden has been painted in a very negative light here lately.
Yeah.
And it's really, really not fair because that dude did nothing wrong. His agent shared information with an insider who then went and threw up all over the internet with it. And then immediately you seen him backtrack. Mm-hmm. And that tells me Drew Rosenhaus went to him and said, hey, dude, you made me look like an ass spilling those beans, right? That's exactly what that came down to. So with that being said, I don't think it's going to be an issue at all. And I think when you look at that, Christian Watson's the leader of that group. And I know some people believe that that's not – well, my brother's dog is not happy right now. When you look at Christian Watson being a leader, that's not saying, hey, look, he is just absolutely dominated statistically. But the way he handled the Romeo Dobbs situation last year where he spoke up and basically said, yeah, Roms was in the wrong. That's my boy. I got his back. We're going to help each other and kind of brung everyone together. Jaden Reed with the locker side conversations that they had in Pittsburgh. He seemed to kind of be leading that charge. I think this room is going to be just fine. And then, oh, by the way, you got the old country boy Tucker Kraft in the background, probably kick everybody's ass in that room. Like, hey, let's simmer down here and win some ball games before we start talking too much money. So I think they're going to be just fine. But anything else on that topic before we move on to that previously mentioned Tucker Kraft?
No, I think we did a good job covering that.
All right, good deal. Let's move it along then. Let's go on to Tucker Kraft. And you know, when you pull up the numbers, when you turn on the tape, there's two players, in my opinion, in terms of pass catchers that really jumps off the tape from last year and the year before as well, to be honest with you. And that's Tucker Kraft and Jaden Reed, right? Tucker Kraft is very, very, very underrated in my opinion. All right. And I'm going to explain why. I'm going to lay out a lot of information here. I'm going to lay out a lot of numbers, and I don't want this just turn into reading a spreadsheet, but I think people need to realize just what kind of season Tucker Kraft had last year. Before we jump into the numbers, I don't want you to just have to sit there and listen to me read numbers right off the bat. Before we dive into the details, Jacob, how do you feel like Tucker Kraft played last year? Like, what sticks out to you? How do you feel when someone says Tucker Kraft? What comes to mind for Jacob as a Packer fan?
Man, a lot of things come to mind. I absolutely love Tucker Kraft. He is probably my favorite player right now, and I think he probably is going to be my favorite Packer for a long time. What surprised me more about him was that as much of a controller, I think he puts in a real great effort when he blocks. He's got to maybe improve a little bit that way. But yeah, I hate to agree with Daryl, but I'm going to tell you that yak, dude, you watch him catch that ball and the way that he turns up field. Guys, I don't know if we can even show any of the highlights here, but some of those where he caught it, throwing double stiff arms, jumping over guys, duking guys out of their seats, carrying guys 5 yards while they're on his back, diving catches, across his body catches, one-arm catches. I mean, when he does it, and like you said, I think he is drastically underrated. I think he's a top 5 tight end right now. I really do. And I think that this year he's going to probably hopefully show a lot of people that he's a real deal. To me, I mean, you never compare guys to outrageous things, but you talk about a guy, he's got the mentality. He reminds me of a smarter Gronk. Gronk, I love him, but he is a freaking idiot. Tucker Kraft, you hear him talk, you can tell he's got a little good old boy in him and all that, but he's a dude, man. And I'm so happy that we ended up getting him in that draft, man. I'm so happy.
Yeah, me too, man. And again, it's why when you have a need like that, you take multiple swings. If we had just settled for, hey, we got our guy on Luke Musgrave, and listen, Luke Musgrave could still be a great player. You know, I personally don't think we've seen it yet, so I'm going to be skeptical until we see it. But you took a swing there in the second round, then you turn around in the third round and had just as high, if not a higher, I wouldn't say a higher grade, but a similar grade on Tucker Kraft that you did Luke Musgrave, and said, you know what, let's grab him too. So you double dip, and lo and behold, the third rounder hits over the second rounder. Same thing last year. We talk about Javon Bullard, and then you took Evan Williams later in the draft. Probably had a similar grade on those two guys. And who ends up being the better player, at least for 1 year? It was Evan Williams. So it's why this year, what happened? You took Matthew Golden. You looked up in the second round. They had a second round grade on Savion Williams, according to Brian Gutekunst. And then they passed on him. They went with Anthony Belton, who probably had a similar grade. And then in the third round, they look up Savion still sitting there with a second round grade. The hell, let's take him too, right? That's how that works. So, yeah, and it seems like everybody in the chat is pretty much on the same page. It's all about that yak, right? That's what it comes down to. And listen, there's just like Jaden Reed, there's things that Tucker Kraft needs to work on. But I'm telling you, man, let's just get into the numbers. This was a lot of fun to put together. Now, we're going to start with the graphic we used for Jaden Reed last night, as Jaden Reed was second in the league. Minimum 60 targets, obviously, or more. Highest passer rating when targeted. Jaden Reed was second in the league at 137.5. And then fifth in the league is Tucker Kraft at 131.1. Guys, he had a higher passer rating when targeted than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Think about that. As a tight end, right? And again, minimum 60 targets, okay? So as we move through the information, these are just quick snippets, and you can get this in our Patreon group. If you guys want to support the show and join our Patreon community, scan the QR code in the upper right or go to patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access. Tucker Kraft finished the season 7th in yards for tight ends. Okay, Jacob, 7th. You think, okay, that's top 10. That's good. Listen to this. That's in spite of having less than half the amount of targets league leader Brock Bowers had, 153 to 70. So when you look at these guys over here, look at the yardage. Okay, it was Brock Bowers at 1,194 yards.
Wow.
Then Trey McBride, 1,146. George Kittle, 1,106, right? And you're thinking those are big numbers. Yeah, they are. Look at the targets. 153 targets, 147 targets, 94 targets. Jonnu Smith finished with 884 yards receiving off 111 targets. Travis Kelce, 823 yards receiving, 133 targets. Sam Laporta, 726 off 83. Look at Tucker Kraft, only 70 targets, and he finished with 707 yards.
50 catches. That's insane.
It's nuts. Now, think about this. This is the stuff that blows my mind that people aren't talking about. If you doubled his targets, okay, to 140, that would still be less than Trey McBride, 7 less than Trey McBride, and whatever it would be, 13 less than Brock Bowers. But if he kept at the pace he did, he would have led all tight ends in the National Football League with over 1,400 yards receiving. If he would have kept that pace. And I know people are going, well, he wouldn't have kept that. Okay, what would you say? But he went down 200 yards over that span. He still leads the league in terms of tight ends and receiving yards. I'm telling you, man, this dude was a damn dog. And that's only the beginning, Jake, only the beginning. And when you look at those names, dude, Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, George Kittle, Jonnu Smith, Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, who was the golden goose, right? He was supposed to be the man out of tight end U. Then you had Tucker Kraft, Hunter Henry, Mark Andrews, Mike Gesicki. These are guys who made a ton of money in free agency throughout their career. Go ahead, man.
No, man. I mean, I didn't realize his numbers were that good, and he had such limited snaps. I mean, when I said that, I thought he was a top 5 tight end. And when I said that, I went, oh, maybe that's a little rich. But I'm telling you, he's a top 3 tight end. He might be one of the best. Numbers and stats, that's what people always say. Well, he's not number 1, blah, blah, blah. I swear to God, dude, next year, you better watch out. If that guy can play at least 16, 15, 16, 17 games, watch out, because I think Jordan Love too. I mean, we can't be the only people that look at that stat line and realize. In my mindset, I feel like we didn't get him involved even half the amount that we should have. Obviously,
exactly.
We talk about that. I'm excited. I think I might be more excited for Tucker Kraft year 3 than any other storyline going into this year. I really do think that he can make that much of a difference. And that may be one of those weird things where everybody's expecting which wide receiver is going to step up? Is the running game going to be a resurgence again? Is the offensive line going to be, be able to gel and do this? I'm more excited, I think, about what's going to happen with Tucker Kraft. Like, is he going to burst out and imagine if we do have the number 1 tight end in the league, what does that mean for everybody else? What does that mean for Josh Jacobs and his ability to possibly, run the ball at a crazy clip? Because it's just, and who are you going to guard? Who are you going to cover? I mean, it's crazy.
That's the big thing, man. Because we were talking about how defenses started to try to take Jaden Reed away. Matt went away from him with the targets. Jaden Reed only averaged 2.5 targets over the span of the last 9 games. It's because he was banged up, and they were trying to kind of reduce those body shots that he was taking as they got into the playoffs. Yeah, if you start to go to Tucker more, then that's going to open up Jaden Reed. If you start to go to Jaden Reed more, that should open up Tucker. If Matthew Golden is 4.29 40 fast, he's going to take the top off. And then you get Christian Watson back in November, and if he's fully healthy, God willing and the creek don't rise, you're going to have a mess on your hands with these pass catchers. I'm telling you, dude. Coach Lynn says he'll be more involved next year, maybe our number 1 option. I would be totally fine with that. There's many offenses in the league that have kind of gone to that. You've seen Kansas City do it with Travis Kelce forever. They won a lot of Super Bowls off of that. I remember the year that we said we needed tight ends, and then they ended up drafting these 2 tight ends, Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. I remember pointing out, look at the 2 teams in the Super Bowl that year, and they both had great tight ends. That's not a coincidence. It really isn't. Moving on to the next stat here.
What's crazy, real quick, too, is that we forget that Jordan Love missed significant time. So he didn't even have his number 1 quarterback throwing him the ball. You know what I mean? Exactly. I love Malik Willis and what he did, but you could tell the whole game plan kind of shifted considerably when he was in the game. And I loved what he did, but you can't argue, or you can't tell me that Kraft would have had a little more, reliability and consistency if you had the QB1 in there the whole year.
Yeah. H.E. Solder says, and Kraft generated those numbers with the Packers not really work in the middle of the field with the passing game. There you go. Again, I'm excited to see what Matt LaFleur draws up this year. All right, here's another statistic. He finished the season tied for 4th in touchdowns amongst tight ends with 7. Okay, so he's fourth in touchdowns. And again, look at the guys that are right there with him. He only had 70 targets. Sam Laporta, who had 7 touchdowns, 83 targets, 13 more targets, 8 more targets for Pat Fryermuth. Zach Ertz had 21 more targets than him and the same amount of touchdowns, right? George Kittle, again, 94. That's 24 more targets than Tucker Kraft had and only 1 more touchdown. Jonnu Smith, 111 targets with 8 touchdowns. And, of course, Mark Andrews with 69 targets. He had 1 fewer target than Tucker Kraft, but they went to Isaiah Likely, as you can see down there, with 58 targets. They went to him a lot moving down the field. When they got in the red zone, they really started to target Mark Andrews, who had kind of a down year, if I remember correctly, as well. But, again, Tucker Kraft tied for 4th amongst tight ends in touchdowns. He finished 2nd in yards per reception, Jacob. 2nd amongst tight ends, 14.1 yards per catch.
Wow.
Trailing only George Kittle, who had 14.2. So he was 1/10 of a yard on average away from leading the league in yards per catch. So you're talking about maximizing your opportunities. And again, if you guys remember in 2023, when he kind of emerged after Luke Musgrave got hurt that first time, we talked about him. He only had 1 drop all year long. Mm-hmm. Last year, the hands weren't quite as good as 2023, but you've seen the ceiling and now you've kind of seen the floor. I think if his hands improve a little bit, he'll get even better numbers next year. Receiving EPA, right? Expected points added. He finished 5th in receiving EPA at plus 32.6. The guys ahead of him were George Kittle at 61.8, Jonnu Smith at 52.4, Mark Andrews at 47.4, Trey McBride at 45.7, then Tucker Kraft at 32.6. He was higher than Mike Gesicki, Pat Fryermuth, Sam Laporta, Zach Ertz, Isaiah Likely, Brock Bowers down there at plus 21.2. Wow. So there you're seeing some of the advanced analytics trending in his favor as well, making him a top 5 tight end in that statistical category. He finished 2nd. This is what everybody was talking about in the chat. Shout out to you guys. Yak. His yak over expected plus 159, which made him 2nd best in the league, only behind George Kittle at 164. So where does he make his hay, Jacob? It's that run after catch, right? It's that catching the ball, turning upfield. And he's got that rule. He said, my rule is I'm not allowed to be tackled by just 1 DB. Yeah. I'm making at least one of those guys eat dirt. That's his goal. I love it, man. Absolutely love it. Next, he finished 2nd in average separation at 4.4. So when he made the catch, okay, this is the separation which he had. Now, you can look at that a multitude of ways. You could say he was running butt naked through the trailer park because he was schemed open. Probably a lot of that going on last year. But also, you can't create that kind of separation and be 2nd in the league amongst tight ends, only behind, who is that, Jatavian
Sanders, yeah.
Yeah, who probably had far fewer targets at only 43 targets. So that's one of those that obviously the more targets you have, the better the number looks. I mean, you look at that separation. George Kittle was at 3.6. So whether you credit it to scheme or you say Tucker Kraft's a good route runner, the reality is he was running open. So it's not a negative stat in my opinion, that's for sure. And then EPA per target, okay? Expected points added per target. When he was throwing the ball, he finished 3rd in that at a plus 0.47, only behind Mark Andrews and George Kittle, along with Jonnu Smith, who tied Tucker Kraft at that positive 0.47, I should say. And then just kind of ended the article saying, as always, there's plenty of things for Tucker Kraft to improve his game in, but one thing is for sure, he's quickly becoming one of the top 5, maybe even top 3 tight ends in the NFL. You said it going into the whole segment here, Jacob. You said, man, he's probably top 10. And then you were like, no, he's top 10, no doubt about it. The question is he top 5? I think so. Top 3 is right around the corner if he takes that next step. But what do you think about our boy Tucker Kraft here? And I can scroll up, down any of those stats you want to kind of highlight, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, I knew he did well, and I actually thought that, again, that like we said, that he was obviously underrated in the national media, but I really thought that he was even underrated with some Packer fans, just really not quite understanding what we have there. I highlighted All Good's comment too, because if this is correct, he says the Packers was the 3rd from the bottom on pass attempts last year. If that's the truth, I mean, imagine the it could be those numbers, like we just showed you about the yardage, the touchdowns, all that. Imagine now if we're third from the top in passing attempts. That Tucker Kraft's numbers could be unbelievable. I mean, you're talking about a guy that could realistically hit 14 or 1,500 yards as a tight end. I mean, okay, let's do it.
I know there's some people out there too that are going, but I don't want to pass that much because look how effective our running game was, right? And that's a good valid argument. I'm a boring fan like that too. I would be totally on board with that. But you also got to think remember when we did the game planning show, we did the schematic show, like, okay, here's how coaches look at tendencies with teams. You can bet your sweet butt next year, these teams, these defensive coordinators are looking up and going, okay, boys, last year they prioritized the run. And if you come out with a healthy Jordan Love who can now get under center more easily with that healthy knee and run play action boot and get back to that original Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan wide zone boot scheme, man. And I'm telling you right now, there is nothing better than showing a stretch left, boot right with Tucker blocking down like it's an outside zone left run, and then you leak out the backside and have it layered across with your 2 on a shallow and your 1 on the opposite side on a deep climb and a shot with your 1 on the right. There's so many things it opens up. They've got to pick their poison. Do we cover the deep shot off the 1 on the right? Do we cover the shallow underneath with the Jaden Reed probably coming out of the 2? Do you get Matthew Golden on that deep climb route? Do you cover that? Oh, crap, we forgot. Tucker Kraft's leaking out underneath. And now all of a sudden you got that big boy doing what he does with the ball in his hand and maximizing on the yak. There's just a number of different things that can change and you can do better this year with a healthier Jordan Love and being able to really kind of key in on that play action game that was definitely missing last year. That's why we've seen him in the gun more often for sure. So anything else you want to add to the Tucker Kraft talk here, man? Anything at all?
No, I just, I hope that when he retires after 15 or 16 seasons with the Packers, we put a statue out front of him just with a lung dart, and a bush latte sitting on a truck bed. That's what I want.
I love it, man. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head when we started this conversation. You said he's arguably your favorite Packer. Right now, for me, it's Tucker Kraft and it's Edgerrin Cooper, the 2 guys. I'm like, man, this, and I love Jordan Love, and I know the quarterback's always going to be the face of the franchise. I love Josh Jacobs. You guys know how I feel about Jaden Reed. But when you say, all right, which 2 players represent your team and represent the city of Green Bay and that whole Wisconsin-like culture of just tough, hard-nosed ass football, right? I think of Tucker Kraft and Edgerrin Cooper. Edgerrin Cooper out there with Frosty, his horse, and you got Quay Walker sending out social media posts going, hey, man, anybody got a boat? I want to go fishing. You got Tucker Kraft drinking bush lattes and smoking lung darts. Like, this is Packer football, baby. I love it. Doesn't get any better. So, all right. So there's a little Tucker Kraft breakdown for you. Why don't we end the show? We got a couple minutes here, Jacob. Why don't we jump into the schedule a little bit deeper? I know we talked about it the other day and we broke it down and did our win-loss totals. For those of you who didn't catch that, we're going to give our official predictions we get closer to the season, but just the initial reaction to the schedule, the way we approach that. I said 12 wins is what I came away with. Now, again, I like to, as the season approaches, I'll give you a window. I'll say, hey, I think it's like last year I said 10-13. They finished with 11. That's how I like to kind of look at the season. There were some points in the year last year, Jacob, I'll go, boys, we're sniffing 14. And there was a couple of times I went, oh, crap, 8 might be on the table now. It's just up and down as the season goes along. But obviously we got them right there in that range. So you could check this out over on our Patreon group as well. I want to apologize. When we did the schedule the other night and you said that schedule looked weak, Jacob, it was from last year. So our boys over at Nerdin on NFL put up the schedule. I seen them pop that schedule up. I got a notification. I'm like, heck yeah, they got that done quick. And I didn't read the tweet that they had attached to it where they said, we plan on doing this again this year. So it was last year's schedule, but everything's been edited on Patreon and updated. So this is the updated schedule. Also, I provided a link right here. That's the website that Ryan Schlitt put together over at Packernet Podcast. It's got the schedule breakdown and everything on there. Really, really cool site he put together. And let's just kind of look at it specifically. We'll skip past the regular schedule here. We've already read that off. I want to key in on division games and kind of look at when these come here, Jacob, and just get again, we'll just spend 5, maybe 10 minutes on it. But here are your divisional matchups in the week in which they hit. Okay. And it's kind of weird because you got the Detroit Lions week 1, 3:25 Central kickoff there at Lambeau Field. I love that opening up in the 3:00 window on opening week for the Packers there on September 7th. Somebody pissed God off over there, didn't
I got some thunder rolling through here. Sorry.
So week 1, you've got the Lions, and then look at this, man. Your next divisional matchup doesn't come till week 12, which, by the way,
it's crazy.
Full disclosure, that's the game I'm eyeing to go to. That might be the one that I end up at. If it's not that one, then it'll be the Bears on December 7th. And we may also go to the Denver game away because I've never been to the Rockies, so we're thinking about going out there. But nonetheless, week 12, you got the Vikings at Lambeau. Week 13, you're on the road against Detroit. Week 14, you're at home against the Bears, and then turn around 2 weeks later and play the Bears in Chicago.
That's wild.
And then 2 weeks later, you finish on the road with the Minnesota Vikings. Hopefully you can see that okay, but what do you think about that divisional schedule? I mean, it's pretty wild that you open up week 1 against the Lions, and then it's not till week 12 you play another divisional opponent.
I don't know if I like it. It's very unique. I don't remember a schedule anywhere near this where, you go week 1 out the gate against arguably your biggest rival at the moment. And then you go a good 11 weeks, 12 weeks because of the bye. And then that's the first time you see Minnesota there. And I don't know what to think about it, man. I really don't like that short, going in Minnesota from the 23rd and then come back around to play the Lions on Thanksgiving 4 days later. Like, God, that seems crazy. And then that whole back end of the season, I mean, I tell you what, it's going to be a whirlwind, and it could either be real good or real bad, and it will happen really quick. I mean, we could be up until, we could be going into week 12 with like 8 wins, 9, something like that, 9 wins, and we could come out the back half and maybe grab only 1 or 2 more. Like it is that competitive. And what were we? We barely won a game last year in the division, right? I think we had 1.
Yeah, I mean,
it was rough.
It's very, very interesting. I don't remember a divisional schedule ever shaping up like this. It's really it's kind of strange. But you guys know my response too is like, bring it on. Let's go, man. Let's just go out there and take care of business. And when you look at it, what it really gives you an opportunity to do is settle in and figure out what kind of team you are. And by the time you get into the thicket of the divisional matchups, it's going to be week 12. And I personally think that favors Matt LaFleur if injuries don't take over like they kind of did last year with the whole Jordan Love and everything, Jair Alexander, all that. Matt LaFleur, in my opinion, coaches his best ball later in the season. You guys know he's kind of known for having a really, really strong December win-loss record. Mm-hmm. And when I look at that, I think it's because he's a play caller, man. He's a game planning coach. And when you go into early in the season and you don't know what these teams are going to do until you get a good 2 or a 4 game saturation where you can really study their film leading up to a matchup, I think he's kind of on his heels a little bit. Hopefully that doesn't happen against Detroit in week 1, because I'm telling you, you talk about a buzz at Lambeau Field. Week 1 against the Lions, kicking off the NFL season, it doesn't get any better than that. So anything else you want to mention here? Again, I just wanted to kind of highlight the divisional schedule there. We could go to the away games, home games, all that stuff, but I just wanted to kind of point that out before we get ready to wrap up. I know you got to run here in a second anyway, right? So
yeah, I mean, it is, again, it's very unique. I remember back, what was it, maybe 5-10 years ago when they started seemingly almost intentionally, it seems that you started your year with a divisional opponent and you ended it. And I always thought, okay, well, that's interesting. It makes for, less chance of quote unquote guys sitting or throwing games, whatever you want to call it. I go back and forth with how I feel about the schedule and whether or not I feel confident or kind of pessimistic. And right now, a lot's going to be, I mean, after week 1, we'll have to, gauge it again, because if we come out of that with a win, holy Lord, I'm going to be on, running on the ceiling. If we come out with a loss, and depending on how that first 4 weeks go, and then if I remember correctly, we had the bye in week 5, right? So
let's see, where was it? Yeah, week 5. You got it. Yeah, it's kind of strange.
And then coming out of there, I mean, it's just weird. And then when you look at the schedule, everybody, myself included, we have such recency bias thinking that, well, what these teams are is what we saw last year from them. And that's just not the case. And I got to remind myself of that. I think we as Packer fans need to do that as well. But I mean, you look at it, there's some opponents on there, man. And even teams like, your Steelers, your Cardinals, the Panthers, the Giants, all of them have a lot of new faces or have a reason to have hope that this year is going to be different than last year. And I don't see the Bengals falling off. I don't see the Commanders falling off. The Lions, obviously, Eagles. It's going to be a fun one for sure. It'll be going down to the wire. And if we do come out and we're swinging for the fences, and by week 10, if we're like 9-1 or 8-2,
battle tested, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Is iron sharp as iron. What steel sharp as steel, whatever they say. So bring it on, man.
Yep, completely agree, man. That's what I'm looking at. If they somehow finish this season 12-5, and again, that's
what I had
early. I'm thinking like the number, the frame I'm coming into is like 11 to 14 wins, like high side 14, low side 11, barring any crazy injuries. But man, it's just, if you do somehow finish the season with 12 wins with this schedule, you're going to look up and go, boys, we just went through the gauntlet and we're one of the best teams in the league. Let's go win this damn Lombardi. That could be happening. So I'm excited about it. But all right. That's pretty much going to do it, man. I think we hit everything that I had on the docket here, guys. And obviously, we're in the off season. We don't want to get crazy trying to extend the show out. I'd rather leave 5 minutes before you guys want us to than hang around 5 minutes longer. If you guys would, though, hit that like button for us. Feel free to sub to the channel. We get a ton of people that watch this show, and the subs are through the roof. Don't get me wrong, but there are a bunch of people that come in and watch the show and don't sub. So if you guys would take a second, sub, hit that bell notification, hit the bell icon, turn the notifications on. We go live every day talking Packers. I don't care what day of the year it is. It's not like, okay, we're in the off season, we'll back it off and go 3 days a week. We try to go every day. Every now and again, I'll go out to dinner with the wife and we'll take a night off. But for the most part, you're going to get daily content here on the channel. So I appreciate everybody swinging through. Also, the best way to support what we do here at Packers Total Access is scan the QR code in the upper right and join our Patreon community. For $3, get you access to everything over there on the site. It also gets you entered into the giveaways, which, by the way, we're looking for Jabin Tebow or Clint Cosgrove. That was the first place and the second place winner. Okay, so the autographed Dontavion Wicks jersey goes to Jabin Tebow if he comes forward. If we don't hear from him, it'll go to Clint Cosgrove. If we don't hear from him, we have already heard from QU_21. They reached out. So we're going to give it about a week and give them ample time to come forward and claim their jersey. But that's just one of many giveaways that we do. And the way that works is if you're a member of the Patreon community, we'll randomly do giveaways, throw everybody's name on the wheel, spin it here live on the show, and give away an autographed piece of memorabilia. So
and in the next couple of weeks here, I'm going to be donating a 3-day all-inclusive pass to the Oval Office with a free breakfast buffet token.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's the stuff I put up with, man.
You're going to want to bring a mask.
You're probably gonna want to double up with that. I was gonna promote something else, but I'm gonna hold off since we just steered it in that direction. We'll hit that tomorrow, but
sorry.
It's all good, Jacob. That's why you're here, man. All right, everybody, have a great night. Thanks to the chat. I seen y'all in there lighting it up tonight.
Is that true, Jacob?
That's not
serious.
Serious, Clark. All right. The show officially sucks now. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate y'all hanging out. We'll see you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central for PTA Live. Y'all have a great night. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world and go back.
And we go.
Bye, guys.